Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a little bit since I have recorded a video. And well, it's 2025. And even though I didn't end the video off in 2024, um, this was one of the best and final games of 2024. And now I'm heading into 2025 with a new goal, new mindset. And I'm actually really excited for this. I have a lot that I want to do, and I have a lot that I want accomplished. And so this game was just a sign for me to keep going. I played this opponent. His name is Gambit Cow, but he wanted to play a game, like a long over the board game in a way. I was using my chessboard at the time, and he was just saying, let's do a 30-minute, 20-second increment game, and let's just play our absolute best and go for it. And I said, sure, let's do it. And this game was actually really phenomenal, in my opinion. And it may not for really, really experienced players, but I mean, if you're calling me experienced, then maybe you should get your head out of the clouds and just see how interesting this game was. And so I started off with the white pieces, and I started with c4. And you know me, I actually don't ever play c4, but I've been playing c4 because I like to do transpositions, and because I don't know the English as much and the ideas as well. I want to learn the English, d4, e4, and everything under the sun, and just expand my knowledge. But I rarely play c4. And my opponent plays knight f6. I play knight f3. And we go into this King's Indian defense system where I play e4 and then he plays e5. Sorry, not e5. Actually, he does play e5 and then plays a5. But in this sort of position, you don't want to take these pawns. And yeah, you want your opponent to take. You take with the knight, rook e1, queen c2, bishop g5. Not bishop g5 now, because there's the h6 kick. And in this game, I played a pretty normal setup. And my opponent didn't know what to think right off the bat, so he played a5, delaying this c6 move. And I play rook to e1. He then plays e6, and then I play queen to e2. Now, I think in the future, I should have played queen c2 and then b3. But I played this to, hold everything together. And so I thought queen to e2 made a little bit more sense. And 10 moves in the opening, you can see I'm up 7 minutes on time. And yeah, this is great for me. And I'm really happy that I was in this position 10 moves in and not completely out of the water in theory. We get queen c7. We get h3, stopping this pin or stopping this advancement of the knight. He plays h6. And then I play bishop to e3 because now you can't walk into my position. And I actually like this. And I'm basically saying, okay, opponent, take at your own risk, basically. I'm not committing anything. I don't need to open up the D file right away. And for me, I actually like that this queen is here because in some sort of situation, I want to have my rook on this file. And after that, he plays rook to e8, monitoring the e file because I guess he's expecting to take and maybe somewhat open up this e file. But I want this closed as much as I can. And my take is that, okay, well, I have multiple pieces defending this e pawn. At some point in time, these are going to be weak pawns. And so I want to strike with rook a to c1 and now play c5 and just break open this in order to get an attack. And for some reason, I also thought, oh yeah, maybe f4 and an e5 in the future. And that's kind of what happened because I played c5. I get my own way after this inactive knight maneuver. Maybe his idea was to go here, but then again, there's like d5 ideas possibly in the future to kick the knight back out again. Takes. He goes back, launches back. I move my queen to d2, and this becomes the first mistake. I was completely winning after here and knight h2, because after this, I have this. And he has to walk back, and I can easily play something like e5. And now I have this, and I have active bishops on both of these sides. I can always play this and maybe e6 and start to scale up the rest of his pawn structure. The best thing I think black can do is to play f6 and maybe open this e file up in order to get some counterplay. But like I said, I completely missed either knight h2 or knight d2 in order to play f4. And that was the main problem of my opening, was that I didn't fully put into practice this pawn structure. And I wanted to become more active with my pieces. I basically dropped the pawn in order to activate my bishop to a better square. But the computer doesn't like that. And I play queen to d2. And now I'm striking at this. Because I looked at this, I said, okay, well, you can gain my pawn back, but I can always regain your pawn, like this weak pawn. And yeah, he plays king to h6, which isn't the most optimal, but it still protects the pawn. And now I need to figure something out. And I looked at this position and I realized, oh my, everything's out of place. I don't want to move any of these. I can't move my bishop. What do I do? Well, I realized he doesn't have too much of an attack on my king side, but I saw this b5 right away from the black pieces, and I was a little bit concerned because this is not a very fun time for the white pieces, because the queen's on the side. He can always go rook b8 and just start to slash away at my queen side where there's not much protection. So I played a4. And a4 was my idea to stop b5. But that wasn't his plan. In fact, his entire plan was to literally just lock these pawns together and get some sort of, position like this. And black is much better. I looked at black's position in this, and for me, personally, wouldn't think this is great, but then again, white has no protection of this e-pawn that I just took earlier. And so, yeah, that's the only reason why black's winning. I go king to h1 because I still don't know what I'm doing. I don't think he can take here, because after he takes, then I go knight takes, and after queen takes, now I have f4. And what's crazy is because that happened. I went bishop to f4 instead. The reason why is because I thought, oh, this pawn is weak. I don't remember thinking of this. And I thought, okay, if I bring my bishop to f4, I can always come and slime my way back for these pawns. But this is bad, because there's actually a crazy move that makes black's position way more interesting and deadly. And that move is queen h5. And queen h5 now targets this, and it also targets this light squared file. And in fact, I have to go something like king h2. And yeah, I need to defend this pawn. Now you're probably thinking, well, what about this taken? Well, that is not good after g5. And now I lose this pawn, and it's going to be bad. And I did see g5, and I was looking at this, and I was like, well, here, this, I have to go here. But there's also bishop to g4, which basically controls the file still. and just keeps this pin on a hefty note. And now he can bring the knight into the position, bring the bishop into the game, bring the rook. And black's attacking chances are quite cruel. And white is in shambles because they have no pawn storm. They are defending on all different cases. And there's no piece in white's position that is past the 5th rank. And that's a problem. And so now white has to play the passive game. But thankfully, my opponent didn't see that after bishop here and played queen to d4, which is, better for black, but I just cannot trade the queens. If I trade the queens, this is just dead. This is just over. There's just this pawn chain. Bishop comes into the game, infiltrates, rooks connect. And white is not good. But I just walk out of the way. I say I don't want to have anything to do with a queen trade. He goes bishop to e6. Now planning ideas of bringing his knight into the game, his bishop into the game, utilizing a pin. And and that's where I play bishop to c7, because I didn't understand this bishop move other than to connect the rooks. And I was like, okay, well, now I can just come and take this pawn chain. He can't play here because takes, and I can take with my knight. Also defended by the bishop, defending the bishop and attacking the queen. But my opponent played the very nice queen to b4. This is not as optimal because this does defend, but rook c8 is actually a nasty trap. After takes, then there's queen b4, and you win the bishop. And I didn't see this, and I was like analyzing the game afterward, and I was like, what? And I completely missed it. And rook a to c1 is a nasty idea, but my opponent played another move, defending the pawn and keeping this pawn structure somewhat healthy. But just so you know, there's one piece that hasn't been activated to its full potential, and that is the bishop. e5 is the move, blocking the bishop from taking my knight, and also attacking this pawn, and also attacking this. We get rook to a to c1, and here's where I start giving black problems. I take that pawn, and now my opponent either has to let go of his rook or somewhat get back into the game and find a counter move. And you're probably seeing, why is black still winning? Bishop to b3. That's the only reason why black is winning. And after queen a4, I also have chances of losing the bishop, but you just remember there is a rook for a bishop there. But according to the computer, when I was looking at this variation after this bishop move, there is the crazy move rook to e6, double attacking both bishops. And yes, this is not good. Even if I try to go bishop to b6, holding this on, there's the crazy move here, bishop to e5. And these are all strays. Which, I looked at this and was quite shocked. But we are human. And my opponent could feel the energy of me getting counterplay and played a very terrible move. Played bishop to d7. Why is this bad? It looks like a normal trade, right? Wrong. After I take, knight d5 is the killer. And it's not just the killer there. My opponent plays queen to d4. And I end the game very nicely. He had 20 seconds on the clock to my 11. Rook c to d1. And that queen is entirely trapped. And my opponent lost on time and realized that his queen was gone anyway. And I won the game. Now, what do we remember from this game? Well, just so you know, if we go back to the beginning of the game, there were different tactics that I missed. For example, I played the opening pretty well. I should have realized that Queen C2 and this was better, along with this Bishop to E3 idea. I think that would have been better, but it was still good opening. I played the very nice C5, which I was very happy to, and got a nice position for myself, but forgot about this knight maneuver back in order to play F4 and then E5. Because I realized I'm not getting the pawn back. I'm losing a pawn, but I'm getting more activity. And in fact, I played a very silly, simple idea, but didn't execute what the position needed. So I had a slight advantage. But I realized that I made all these different subtlety moves. I didn't know what to do in this position specifically, and so I played king to h1, which was not optimal. And then instead of playing pawn to f4 again, and then playing e5, bringing white and their pieces back into the game, I played this. And this I realized I should have not done so quickly, because now this becomes the target for black. And if they can execute some sort of plan, maybe striking out with f5 themselves in the later future, white is now in dead and deaf trouble. Also, I played this move, and I thought this was genius in order to get back, but I realized that even though I had some sort of counterplay, black was definitely in a much better position. And yeah, bishop to b3 is very nice, and I mean, after this, even takes, even though it's considered like somewhat of a draw, white has to defend for most of the game. But look at the time clock is 11 to 36 seconds, and he played this with like 14 seconds on the clock. And so yeah, I got a nice position, and I was able to capitalize on his queen. And yeah, this was a huge learning curve. That basically in this game, I learned that I needed to strike out in the center more. I needed to, even though I was trying to get activity with my pieces, I needed to not get so tunnel vision with trying to regain an extra pawn and not, lose my bishop in the process. And so, this game had a lot of hiccups, I guess, somewhat. It wasn't a terrible game, but they're just minor, inconveniences to my playing style that I realized, I'm getting better with the over-the-board practice that I'm getting. But yeah, this was a huge eye-opener that I'm still getting better, but there's still a lot to learn. And for me, as a 2100, this was a pretty decent game. But like I said, there's a lot of learning, and especially if I plan to get into over-the-board tournaments, which I do plan to do, I will let you guys know. But with the more practice I get, the more perfection comes along with it. And so yeah, I hope 2025 becomes a good year for chess, especially for our channel. And yeah, we'll see y'all in the next one. And thanks for coming along. Peace, gentlemen.